Good morning to all. Please be seated. So good morning to all those who joined online. So friends, from today onwards, let's begin one new and very important section from your GS3, that is Environment and Ecology. So in this class, let's try to understand first of all the approach to proceed with Environment and Ecology. So first, before we proceed with the class, let's try to understand the basic approach, how we can just proceed and approach the paper. So generally to speak, environment and ecology, it is considered as the game changer in the UPSC prelims. Game changer, we are calling it as a game changer because it holds absolute significance and importance in the, not only in UPSC prelims, whereas it also holds importance in the mains also. Okay, so let's try to understand why is it called as game changer. Okay, so if you basically look at significance of environment and ecology or relevance of environment and ecology, so usually environment and ecology will have good weightage in the prelims as well as mains. So if we talk from the perspective of weightage perspective or weightage point of view, so are you aware how many questions would be asked in pre? Yes. So in prelims, if you look at prelims perspective, roughly around 15 to 20 questions. 15 to 20 questions would be picked and asked from environment and ecology section. So 15 to 20 questions, roughly if we take 20 questions, it would be around 40 marks. So from recent past 4 to 5 years, environment and ecology is picking up pace and it is turning to be one of the toughest subject for prelims, because the questions are being not only asked from the static portions, rather they are also being asked from the dynamic portions. So subject is static as well as dynamic. So we have to have good interlinkage of the static portions with the dynamic portions. So that is one important thing. So when we talk from the mains perspective, in your GS paper 3, you will have different sections. Amongst that, you have environment and ecology. So that is one portion. So from here, regularly 3 to 4 questions would be picked and 3 to 4 questions would be asked in this section. So roughly there would be around 45 to 50 marks. Around 45 to 50 marks would be asked from environment and ecology. So if you generally translate this to the in terms of marks or ratio percentage, so you see around out of 100 questions, 20 questions would be there from this section, and out of 200 marks, 40 marks would be there. That means roughly it will account to 1/5 weightage would be there in pre. And when you talk from mains perspective from paper 3, so 1/5, it is also again 1/5 weightage. 1/5 marks would be allocated to environment and ecology. So from that perspective, one way environment ecology is absolutely important for prelims. And next, if we talk from other importance perspective, so all of you might be aware that we have common exam for IFOS, so Indian Forest Services plus Indian Civil Services. So as we have Indian Forest Services also been included in prelims, common exam for IFOS as well as Civil Services, there would be good number of questions that would be picked and asked from this section. So UPSC has started giving more importance and weightage to this topic. So from that perspective, you have to focus on that thing. So most of you might be applying for the IFOS services also. So from that perspective, you need to have good perspective on environment and ecology. So that is one thing. So then if you just talk about other importance, usually it is one of the most important subject, but it is one of the most neglected and reluctant subject by the aspirants. Okay, reluctant and neglected because you need to have knowledge from almost all the sections to cover up this section. You need to have the knowledge of geography, you need to have the knowledge of the current affairs, you need to have the knowledge of basics of biology, you need to have the knowledge of science and technology, as well as you need to have the knowledge of agriculture. So likewise, if you want to proceed with this section, you need to have knowledge. So knowledge should be applicative in nature. So usually those concepts which are picked in applicative genre will be felt as difficult by the students, but it is not generally. So when you have knowledge, then obviously you can do it. So don't make any such kind of stereotypes. It's not a difficult subject. It is one of the simplest and easiest subject. Okay, remember and keep likewise. So that is one thing. So why we have to focus means it is one of the most important subject, but it is one of the most neglected. So usually we know winners don't do different things. They do things differently. So from that perspective, you do not harbor such kind of selective nature of study. Okay, so generally if you talk from, for example, history, so for history you no need to have knowledge of other subjects like for geography or like let's say science and technology. So such interlinkage is not required, whereas for these subjects you need that. So that's why you focus and have knowledge of other subjects also. So that is one thing. So then if we talk from the other importance, so other importance, environment ecology not only holds relevance for your exam, it also holds relevance for your day-to-day life also. You have to know, you have to have sound knowledge about the environment. So environmental pollution, what are the effects of environmental pollution, how to just overcome from such kind of issues. So all these things are important in your day-to-day life also. So not only from an exam point of view, but also for the personal life also it is required. So that is one thing. So that is with respect to this significance, or why we will call it as game changer. So for all these reasons we will call the environment ecology as game changer. Okay, so this is one thing. So try to keep these things in mind and do not neglect this topic. So next thing, so how to proceed, how to prepare, or what are the basic resources that you have to use for this subject. So that is one another important aspect that we have to focus. So when you look at the books and resources, or books or references, what books and what references you have to follow. So first thing is that very basic aspect is that to cover the basic concepts, you have to read the 12th standard biology book. So you have 12th standard biology book. So NCERT, CBSE, 12th standard biology book. From this book, you have to refer chapters 13, 14, 15 and 16. So these are the units that you have to refer with respect to basics of biology. So NCERT books. And apart from this, in class 11th, chemistry books. So chemistry book, there would be unit 14. So it consists of environmental chemistry. So there you have to focus on these units in chemistry book. So that is very basic thing. Okay, you must and have to proceed with this one. So don't skip these books. Then if you want to further proceed, if you want to further do extra reading or extra references if you want, then there would be a book called Environmental Studies. Environmental Studies by Iraq Barucha. There would be a book called Environmental Studies by Iraq Barucha. So this is one book where you can refer for further conceptual clarity. Okay, so here when you are referring this, you don't need to refer all the units. So there also you can systematically study units 3, 4, 5, 6. So units 3, 4, 5, 6 you can refer. So they are relevant to our studies. Okay, so that is one thing. So then apart from this, if you want to just proceed further, so further if you want to just refer and if you want to just enrich your knowledge horizon, you can proceed with NIOS Environment Module. Environment Module of NIOS, National Institute of Open Schooling. So you will have that. So you can pick the documents from NIOS and you can read that one. So that is one another resource. So this is one, these are the books that you can refer to cover the topics related to environment and ecology. But instead of doing all these things, one good thing what we'll be doing is, so in our classes, whatever the things that we'll be writing in our class notes, so there would be nothing but this summary of all these books. Okay, and you may refer for further extra our printed material that is being circulated to you. So you can use these resources from books point of view. Okay, so this is one important aspect. So our class notes would be ultimate resource you can keep, and whatever we are going to write in the class, make sure that those statements will definitely reflect in the exam. Okay, without any hesitation, you make sure that they'll be definitely reflected, because in our class we are going to proceed only with exam oriented approach. So there are so many concepts that has to be covered in environment ecology, but we are not proceeding with all the aspects that are there in environment ecology. Rather, we are going to proceed on exam oriented approach. Okay, so specifically we will pick those things which are important for exam. So that is one thing. So these are generally books, and apart from this, there are some of the other miscellaneous resources that you have to refer. So what are those miscellaneous resources? So usually, so you have to refer some of the resources, like let's say we will have Ministry of Environment, Forest, Climate Change. So MOEFCC, it publishes annual report by the end of each year. So you have to pick the annual report that is being published by MOEFCC and other publications it would be published. So other publications that are published by MOEFCC, you have to follow them regularly. So that is one thing. So then if you look other sources, so you will have India Yearbook. Have you heard of India Yearbook? India Yearbook, have you heard? So in India Yearbook, you will have a specific chapter on environment, which consists of various initiatives. Like MOEFCC annual report would be very lengthy. So if you want further concise information, then you can refer India Yearbook's chapter on environment. Chapter on environment. So this would be one important source from where you can pick the recent initiatives, recent aspects related to environment and ecology. Okay, so that is one important source. Okay, so then apart from this, you have to refer some of the magazines and journals. So magazines and journals like Yojana or Kurukshetra or Down to Earth, as the subject is dynamic, so we have to have this knowledge also. So you have to refer this one, and Science Reporter. So these are some of the important magazines or journals you must and should refer. Okay, so make it as a habit. So then apart from this, you have some other things like online sources, like let's say UNDP website or UNFCCC website and its conventions and initiatives. And then you will have a portal called Envis portal. So there would be an online portal called Envis. So that is a portal or initiative by the government of India. So Envis portal, it provides information for various recent activities done in the realm of environment. So you have to proceed with that one. So this is one important aspect you have to keep in mind. So apart from that, you will have Parivesh portal. So Parivesh portal. So try to just keep on updating your information from current perspective from these aspects. Okay, so that is one thing you have to go through and you have to keep in mind. So this is how you have to proceed, and these are the important references that you have to follow. Okay, so that is with respect to books and references. Okay, so then what is the trend analysis and how the questions are being asked in the prelims as well as mains? You also have to have the knowledge of same thing. So without having the knowledge of the nature of questions, do not proceed with reading any subject. It's not only environment ecology, but any subject. Before you began reading with any subject, you go through the trend analysis. Okay, so what is the trend analysis of this subject? When we talk about the trend analysis portion, as I was talking, like roughly around 20 questions, 15 to 20 questions would be picked and asked from environment ecology, and around 3 to 4 questions would be given from mains portion. So 50 marks for mains and around 40 marks for prelims. So this would be marks allocation. Okay, so when you see the questions, so you can have some of the questions. So I'll circulate the documents. I'll circulate the document in the group so that you can pick and you can just pick and you can use this document, and you can see there are around till 2012 we have covered all the important questions that have been asked from environment and ecology. So where is it? So if you see some of the questions that have been asked in 2023 prelims, so questions would be generally both static as well as dynamic. So questions like, let's see, there was a question on community reserve. Community reserve, it's a concept related to conservation and biodiversity. So there was a question on community reserve. Then it's not visible? No? Okay, so then there was a question on biodiversity management committees. So that was another theme that has been picked in last year. Then there was a question on, there was a question taking on the marsupials. Such questions actually they'll make the paper difficult. Okay, but those questions would be difficult, and those questions would be common to all. So don't worry about 1 or 2 questions which are hard. Okay, so we cannot cover entire aspects in the classes. So somewhere you have to apply some of your knowledge from outside. So that is one question. Then there was invasive species specialist group. So it was current related topic. So this we have covered actually in the test series. So after completion of your course, you will have sectional test. So in that sectional test, so we have given this test. We have given this question. So likewise, you can cover from current affairs and tests also. So that is one question. So then there was a question like, how many of the above generally are nocturnal or most active after sunset? So nocturnal animals. Usually students will feel that questions would be asked and picked from other topics, but questions will be asked from basic topics also. Basic topics, nocturnal animals or like diurnal animals, or such kind of topics are regularly being asked in environment and ecology section. So do not neglect the basic concepts. So that is important. So don't worry, we will cover and we will write all the important aspects and examples. So likewise, for example, if you don't know whether Samba deer is nocturnal or diurnal, you cannot attempt this question. So factual, whereas you need that one. So that is one thing. So likewise, you look at this question, which of the following organism performs vagal dance? Vagal dance for others of their kin to indicate the direction and distance to a source of their food. This was one generic question that you need to have the knowledge of 12th standard and 11th standard biology. When you read 11th standard book, you will get to know that honeybees will perform a type of a different dance called vagal dance. It is their way of communication. So usually we will neglect the basic books like 11th standard and 12th standard books. So those who will neglect such sources, they'll feel difficult. These questions are difficult, but they are very general questions and simple questions. Okay, so in order to attempt such kind of questions, you need to read the basics. So some questions would be there generic, like some mushrooms are medicinal properties, some mushrooms have psychoactive properties. So this would be covered in science and tech as well as this portion. So you need to have knowledge likewise. So look at this question, statements regarding Indian squirrels. So these things will not be taught in the class, but you need to have some of the basic and generic idea about your environment. So when you go, most of you might be going and sitting in the parks or gardens. There you might be seeing squirrels, and somewhere somehow you might be watching some of the videos in YouTube or likewise. So from there you can find these kind of answers for this kind of thing. Okay, like look at this, they are omnivorous, they store food materials like nuts and seeds in the ground. So think of these things. So though we won't teach them in the class, but you need to have that applicative knowledge. Okay, likewise for this you need to have common sense, you need to have applicative knowledge of others. Look at this question. Actually in 2023 these questions made the paper tough. Look at this question, like which one of the following makes a tool with a stick to scrape the insects from a hole in a tree or log? So this was another question that has been picked and asked. So if you apply common sense, then at least you can eliminate two options. One option is, let's see, it should be an organism which can make the tools with a stick. That means this organism has to hold the stick. If it is unable to hold the stick, then how can it make a tool to scrape from the trees? So other clue it has been given is that from a tree or from a log of wood. Now you look at the options. Fishing cat. Can it hold, it is very tiny organism, can it hold a stick? No. And moreover it is an aquatic thing, so it cannot. Then think about otter. So you might have heard about sea otter. So it is a aquatic animal, aquatic organism. So if you apply basic common sense, then you will get at least two options you can just remove. Then orangutan and sloth bear. You have two things. So sloth bear and orangutan. So generally, even if you don't know also, orangutan belongs to the ape family. So when it belongs to apes family, so we know like apes can make so many things. So at least if you know that, then you can attempt such kind of things. For that you need to have good common sense and good presence of mind. Okay, so read the questions carefully. Do not get panic immediately after looking at such questions. Even this Indian squirrels question also, if you go and sit in the parks or if you go and sit in the gardens, you can see such kind of things that are happening in and around you. So like think about, like they build nests by making burrows in the ground. So can you see that? Usually squirrels will reside in burrows. From burrows they will just come out. Okay, so here you may get confused with nest. Nest is nothing but place where they live. You do not consider like nest means nest of a bird. Nest of a bird is different, nest of a squirrel is different. So it makes burrows and it lives in burrows. And if you just sit in the park or garden, if you throw nuts, like whatever nuts you have there in your hand, like let's talk about the mungfali or groundnuts, if you throw, then they'll come and they will take it and they will go. So usually they will attract for such things. So here they are omnivorous. Omnivorous means you need to have some of the basic terminology, like what is like a herbivore, what is the carnivore, what is omnivore. You need to have basic knowledge of that. So then you can attempt such questions. So likewise, so it would be done simply. So these are some of the questions. So like this, we have list till, so look at from environmental pollution concept. So hydrofluorocarbons, where hydrofluorocarbons are used, or some things like related to carbon capture and carbon sequestration. So related to environment portion. So then carbon fibers, there was a question on carbon fibers, and there was a question on mercury pollution. So mercury pollution question has been picked last time because it was in news. So that's how the question has been picked. So then some of the question have been given from, one question has been given from pure current affairs. One question would be there related to international organizations. Every year one question would be there related to international organizations. It can be UNDP, it can be, there are so many organizations. So they can be picked and they can be asked. So make sure that one question would be related to international organizations related to environment. So likewise, so this is one question likewise. So like that we had so many questions. So go through the questions, so you will get an idea how the questions would be asked. But as I regularly say, you need to have a smart approach. If you look past 5 to 8 years, regularly the basic concepts have been grossly neglected. Ecology concepts have been grossly neglected, basic ecology concepts. And slowly UPSC is moving from environment concepts to ecological concepts. And on that note only, this year they have focused more on biodiversity and conservation initiatives. So next year, if we can just analyze and if we can guess, then we can expect some of the questions from basic ecological concepts. Strategically, it has neglected for past 5 to 6 years. There was no questions on basics of ecology. They are picking the topics from environment, they are picking the concepts from biodiversity and conservation, but they are neglecting the topics from basics of ecology. So this time we may expect they may shift their focus towards the basics of ecology. Okay, let's try to do that portion completely. So go through these things so that you will get an idea. At the end of this document, you will have the questions related to mains also. Okay, so mains questions from 2023 to past 2018 likewise. So go through them so that you will get a proper idea. Okay, so that is with respect to the trend analysis. So in this year, in 2022, wetlands were in use. At the end of 75th year of independence, so around 75 wetlands have been added to Ramsar list. So this was very expected question and genre that wetlands would be picked and asked. So they have picked and asked the wetlands. Okay, so that was. So here you look at this question. Most important anthropogenic source of both methane and nitrous oxide. So this was related to the environmental pollution. So global, greenhouse gases likewise. So that was one question. Okay, so this was one question. So likewise, you just refer this document so that you will get an idea related to that. So that is with respect to the trend analysis. And then how we are going to proceed in our classes. Okay. So how we are going to proceed means we have allocated total 25 classes. In these 25 classes, we have allocated significant number of classes to ecology as well as biodiversity. Around roughly 14 classes have been allocated to ecology and biodiversity. Okay, then the rest topics, around 10 to 11 topics have been allocated to environmental pollution and the applicative concepts of environment related things. So you can see we are not going to leave even applied concepts also. We are going to cover applied concepts like usually these topics like bioenergy, biofuels, bioremediation, such topics would be asked. Biofertilizers, biopesticides, they are applicative concepts. So usually in classes it won't be covered. So we are going to cover that. And we are going to systematically cover all the aspects of environmental pollution. Okay. And in class, wherever you can understand, I will explain the concept and then I'll dictate the notes. And wherever it is possible, where you cannot understand, I'll dictate the notes and then I'll explain the concept. Okay, so that approach will be following in the class. So that is one thing. So don't worry, everything, whatever we are there, we are going to write in the notes. Okay, so that is one thing. So then what I will expect from you? What I'll expect from you is that usually when we see in the classes, in the first class or second class or first 3 classes, students will attend. Later on, by the end we reach, so now we have 25 classes. By 20th class, half of the students will take rest. So do not do such mistakes. Do not do such mistakes. When we basically talk about UPSC, there should be 3 important qualities that must be there for aspirants. One is patience, other one is perseverance, the next one is determination, And the next one is consistency. You have to maintain all these things along with your hard work with smart approach. If you do not have any of this, then you will be under trouble. So patience should be there. Patience in the sense, if we talk from classes perspective, we cannot make all classes as interesting as. Some topics would be dry topics, some topics would be factual topics, some topics would be conceptual topics. So based on the nature of the topic, we have to acquaint in the class. Okay, so that is one thing. So then perseverance. Perseverance means in the class, we will try to cover all the important concepts. So wait till, maintain patience and wait till the topic is gets completed. Then you can just proceed with the doubts. So by the end of the class, almost all the things would be covered. And still, if you have doubts, you can just pick and you can just ask the doubts. And you have to maintain consistency. Consistency not only in attendance, consistency in reading and revising the concepts. You have to regularly read the notes and you have to regularly read the topics mentioned in the class from those resources which we have said. Okay, so that would be one thing. And apart from this, at the beginning itself, I am saying, do not skip your DPPs, daily practice papers, and do not skip your tests. Again, I am saying, if you are skipping the tests, you will be at disadvantaged edge. Okay, please do not commit such mistakes. Okay, maintain consistency in your, not only in classes, but also with reference to your assignments also. So that is one thing. So this I'll be expecting from your side. Okay, will you promise? Okay, so make sure you will write. See, if you don't write now, some things now later becomes never. Again, I'm saying later becomes never. So if you don't write now, then you won't get things later. So that is one thing. So that would be with respect to the approach, how we are going to proceed and what I'm expecting from you, all these things. Okay. Along with this, try to interlink the concepts from the current affairs point of view. Wherever you come across anything related to environment, ecology related concepts, you have list of topics now. So from this list, anything if it is there in the news, you pick and you try to learn those aspects. Okay, then at the end, anyhow in current affairs sections it would be covered, or in other sections it would be covered. Okay, so that is with respect to the approach, how we have to proceed with environment and ecology. Okay, so with this, let's try to have a basic introduction with respect to environment and ecology. Okay, let's try to have. So first, to begin, we have to understand first what is environment and what is ecology. So before we proceed substantially with the other topics, we have to know what is environment and how the word environment has etymologically derived. So when we talk from the perspective of the word environment, so environment, it has been derived from a French word. So etymologically speaking, the word environment has been derived from a French word called environner. So the word environner in English, if we translate that, it refers to generally to surround or to encircle. To surround or encircle. That means the word environner refers to surround or to encircle. So from etymological perspective, if you speak from etymological perspective, the word environment refers to the surroundings in which an organism lives. In very simple manner, from root word perspective, we are saying environner refers to surround. That means in simple way, we can say that the surroundings in which an organism lives. So surroundings in which an organism lives. So that refers to environment. You try to catch this phrase. If you catch this phrase, then you can understand further concepts. So usually try to have good imagination and imagine as if, let's say, you are there in a zoological park. Let's take and let's assume that you are in a zoological park. So at present you are there in zoological park, and in that park, assume that you are sitting on a bench. So then, for example, you are an organism. So we are all living organisms. So assume that you are an organism, living organism, and you are sitting on a bench in zoological park. Then what are the aspects that will surround you? What are the aspects that will surround you? Can you guess? What are the various things that will surround you? Yes, good. So one thing, okay, first let's go by one. So one thing is animals. Can you see animals? Okay, then what can you see? Yes, trees. Trees means, can we take it as plants? Plants and trees. Then what else? What else you can see? If you are, assume that you are in a park, zoological park. I am not saying normal garden. You are in zoological park. So now you say, huh? Yes, soil. Obviously, you can have soil. Then, yes, you can see water. Then, say anything, whatever you see, you try to recollect and say. Yes, rocks, good. Then, be quick, no problem. There are so many things. Good, air, good, very good. Don't feel all things that are coming to your mind is valid here. You speak out. Okay, then natural things. Talk about natural things. You are in zoological park. Huh? Yes? Grass. Okay, grass. Yes, you can have plants and grass. Then what else? Very good. So won't you find insects there? Why are you thinking insects? And what about other things? Microorganisms like bacteria, fungus. Aren't they there? They'll be there. So then apart from this, what else you can see? Obviously. So when we are talking from humans, so human beings would be there. Okay. So human beings, that means animals, part and parcel. Okay. Then apart from that, along with this sunlight, won't you feel temperature? Won't you feel temperature? Okay. So we are saying that environment generally refers to the surroundings in which an organism lives. So now, as I have said you, like I have asked you to imagine that as if you are staying in a zoological park, and then I told you to look into your surroundings. There you have said that there would be some things called animals, plants, insects, bacteria, or microorganisms like this. So all of these things, what is the common difference between this section and this section? All of these things are living. So these are nothing but living components that you can see in and around you. And if you talk about this, these are nothing but non-living components. They are non-living aspects or non-living components. So in simple manner, by this observation, how we can just explain the environment means, with this we can say that environment refers to an assemblage of the living and non-living components that surround a particular organism. Okay, so in biological terms, the living components would be called as biotic components. Biotic components. And in biological terms, non-living are called as abiotic components. Abiotic components. So together, if we talk about biotic as well as abiotic components, so environment is nothing but the sum total of all the biotic and abiotic components that surrounds an environment, that surrounds an organism. Is that clear from this point of view? So there would be some living and non-living, biotic components and non-biotic components, abiotic components. So sum total of all the biotic as well as abiotic components refers to the environment. Okay, so that is one thing. So here, when we are talking about the components of the environment, so we can further, based on the life, we can basically classify them into biotic as well as abiotic components. So further we can classify them into various aspects, into various types. So if you look at the components of environment, if you see here, generally they can be categorized into two important types. So one would be the biotic components, that means those components which have life, biotic components. Another component is abiotic components. Abiotic components. So here these biotic components can be further classified into different things. That means we are talking about living organisms, living things. So living components can be further categorized into different types. So what are those different types? So if you look at them, so generally there would be some producers in the environment. Okay, then there would be some consumers in the environment, and there would be some decomposers in the environment. So biotic components can be systematically categorized into various types. So producers, consumers and decomposers. So this way we can classify the biotic components. So producers, if we talk about basic producers, so I am giving one example like is plants. So we saw some examples there, you try to recollect them. So from that, so one of the example for producers is plants. Plants will produce the energy. They are generally the producers of the energy. They can produce their own energy. So when we go to further aspects, we will learn more about the further aspects related to the producers like autotrophs, heterotrophs. There we will learn that aspects, but here I am introducing these words. Okay, then there would be some consumers like, yes, good, like animals. Animals are the general consumers, generally we are talking generally. Okay, then there will be some decomposers. So decomposers like microorganisms. So likewise, so these are different biotic components that we can see. Okay, then there would be lot of abiotic components. So what would be various abiotic components that we can see around an organism or in the environment? So if you basically talk about abiotic components, there would be some climatic components and there would be some edaphic components. Climatic components and edaphic components. Climatic components means when you stay, obviously, won't you feel temperature? Won't you feel the sunlight? Won't you feel the air? Won't you feel the presence of water? So all of these things, rain, all of these things are nothing but the climatic components, okay, which are related with the climate. Okay, and edaphic components. Edaphic means related to soil. So think about the soil, think about the rocks, think about all such things which are developed as a result of the soil and soil related aspects. So they are the abiotic components. Okay, this is of basic these are the basic aspects related to the environment. So till now we try to understand what is environment and what are the basic components of the environment likewise. Okay, so let's try to write down till here, then let's proceed further. Okay, so keep a heading stating basic concepts of environment and ecology. Basic concepts of environment and ecology. Okay, so there you write, keep a small subheading stating environment. Okay, so there you mention, in the first point you mention that the word environment is derived, from a French word. The word environment is derived from a French word environner, which means to surround, or to encircle, which means to surround or encircle. Keep a full stop and mention, therefore, etymologically speaking, etymology means, what do you mean by etymology? Yes, etymology means study of the scientific study of the words. So how a particular word has derived. Likewise, etymology means like root word approach, by root word. So there you mention, therefore etymologically speaking, the word environment refers to surroundings in which an organism lives. Okay, so then your next point you mention that. Okay, next point you mention that the environment of an organism constitutes various living and non-living components. Okay, keep a full stop and write in the same point. The living components are called as biotic components. And non-living components are called as abiotic components. Okay, so that is one thing. Then next point you mention, the biotic components includes plants, animals, and microorganisms, like bacteria, fungi, etc. Okay, so that is one thing. So here, can we include virus into this? No? Are you sure? Is virus a living organism? No, virus is not a living organism. Virus is a component. Virus is a component. So it is a living component. When it enters into a living organism, then it will replicate in the organism. So virus is not a living organism. It's not a living organism. You remember that. It's not an organism. So it's a component. So likewise, okay, remember that. So that's why we are not mentioning it here. So that is one thing. Then next point to mention, abiotic components include climatic components like temperature, sunlight, we can say, but temperature, sunlight, air, water, we can say atmospheric also, no problem. So climatic or atmospheric, no problem. So water, air, water, etc., and edaphic components, edaphic, edaphic components like soil, rocks, etc. Soils, rocks, etc. Okay, so that is one thing. So in next point you mentioned that therefore environment is the sum total of all the biotic and abiotic factors. Environment is the sum total of all the biotic and abiotic factors that surround and potentially influence an organism, that potentially surround and influence an organism. Okay, so that's how we can just basically define the environment. Okay, now you try to just look at these aspects. So when an organism is there, let's say there is a tiger or there is an elephant. So around the tiger or elephant there would be non-living components. Think about sunlight, think about temperature, think about various such things. So usually the behavior of that particular animal would be influenced by either presence or absence of these abiotic components. Let's say if water is not available in and around, so can an organism live there? No. So if think like there is very high temperature, so can an organism live outrightly in the environment? No, it has to make some adaptations. So likewise, so usually what will happen, the both biotic as well as abiotic components will potentially influence the living organisms. Okay, so that is one another important aspect that we can see. Okay, so there you keep a subheading stating components of environment and just make this flowchart. So examples for here you just mention later on. So till this you just mention and leave some space for writing examples for this and finish that. Components of environment, under that you mentioned that. Okay, done. So that is with respect to basic introduction about what is environment and what are the various components of environment. So then let's try to understand what is ecology. So first thing is that environment. So we have understood that environment refers to the surroundings in which an organism lives. So if we basically talk about an organism, let's take an organism as deer. Okay, so deer is there, and surrounding this organism, this deer, assume that this deer is there in a forest environment. Okay, so in the same environment, there can we see the presence of grass. Grass can be there. Okay, in the similar fashion, we can also see presence of some things called, let's say, tiger or any other animals. So one thing is one living thing, that is plants, that is green plants like a grass, and other thing is deer. So usually an organism in its environment, it will have a kind of relationship with the other components. So there, if you generally see, the deer feeds on grass. Okay, then the tiger, it feeds on the deer. So in simple manner to say, deer is the regulator of the grass. And if you see the deers, with reference to deer's population, tiger is the regulator of the deer population. That means usually both of them will have prey and predator relation. So tiger feeds on deer, so it would be the prey and it would be the predator. So being a predator, it tries to regulate the population of the tigers. If we assume that if tigers are not there, then obviously the deer population will become surplus. So when deer population will become more and more, then what may happen? The grass, whatever the grass is there, that will start exhausted. So when grass exhausts, so then the food for various organisms will get exhausted. So that's how it may lead to extinction of the organisms. So likewise, in the environment, an organism will have a specific relationship between each other. So likewise, what will happen? So they will have a kind of specific relationship in the environment. So in ecology, what we will do? Ecology is nothing but the systematic study of the relationship between different organisms, in between them and with their environment. So an organism will have a specific relationship with other organisms as well as with its surroundings. So we will try to study these relations systematically in ecology. So such kind of systematic and scientific study of the relationship between the organisms between themselves and with their environment, that refers to ecology. Okay, so that is one thing. So here, when we talk about the word ecology, so etymologically speaking, the word ecology has again been derived from two words. So one is oikos and other one is logos. Okay, here in simple manner to say, the word oikos generally refers to home, or it refers to household, whereas the term logos refers to study or study of. So etymologically speaking, if you talk from the root word perspective, the word ecology is derived from two Greek words, oikos and logos. Oikos refers to home and logos refers to study. So combinedly, togetherly, we can say ecology refers to study of the organisms at their home. So that's how we can just define the ecology in very simple manner. Study of organisms at home. So that's how you can just etymologically define the ecology. And when we talk about the word ecology has been first coined by a German biologist. His name is Ernst Haeckel. So he is the first person who has introduced the word the ecology. He was a German biologist and he introduced this word in the year 1969. Though he has introduced the word ecology, the word got popularized by the efforts of another scholar called Charles Ritter. So the word ecology has got popularized by the efforts of Ritter. So another important scholar. Okay, so that is one another aspect. So etymologically we can define like this, and in terms of its nature we can define ecology as a systematic and scientific study of the organisms, relationship between the organisms and with its environment likewise. Okay, so there is other scholar called Charles Elton. So Charles Elton has defined ecology in other way. So how he has defined? So he has defined ecology as study of plants and animals in relation to their habitat. So that's how Charles Elton has defined by his observation, study of plants and animals in relation to their habitat. So this is how Charles Elton defined ecology. Okay, so that's how. So what do you mean by habitat here? Habitat refers to the place in which an organism lives. The place of living of an organism refers to habitat. For example, if we talk about humans, we will generally live in a home. Like you think about birds will build a nest and they will live there. So that would be the habitat for them. Or the habitat can be as small as a local area or a small area, or it can be as big as a forest. So forest can also be a habitat, as well as small nest can also be a habitat. So in simple manner to say, some animals will live in the aquatic habitat, that means in water. Some organisms will live in the forest, so forest habitat. Or some organisms will live in the tree, so tree become a habitat likewise. So habitat refers to the place where an organism lives. So that is one thing. So here, according to Charles Elton, ecology refers to study of the plants and animals in relation to their habitat. So likewise, Charles Elton has defined. So that is basically what ecology is. Okay. So in ecology, we will try to study about the relationship between various organisms and various aspects that are present in the environment likewise. Okay, there you mentioned a subheading stating ecology. Okay, so under that you mentioned the term ecology. The term ecology is derived from two Greek words. Oikos and logos. Oikos and logos. Keep a full stop and write in the same point. Where oikos, O-I-K-O-S, oikos refers to home or household. And logos refers to the study of refers to the study of. Okay, keep a full stop unmentioned in the same point. Therefore, etymologically speaking, therefore, etymologically speaking, ecology can be defined, etymologically speaking, ecology is the study of organisms at their home, study of organisms at their home, study of organisms at their home. Okay, so that is literal meaning. So literally we can just mention likewise. Okay, as they are there at home, so organisms, as they will have interactions with other animals. So in next definition you mentioned, ecology can be defined as, while writing you read and write. Okay, so that you will further comprehend. So while writing you read and write. So therefore ecology can be defined as a systematic, ecology is defined as a systematic and scientific study, of the relationship, systematic and scientific study of the relationship of living organisms, with each other, and with their environment, Okay, is that clear? So that is basically, that's how we can define ecology. So then in next point you mentioned, the term ecology was introduced, for the first time. The term ecology was introduced for the first time by a German biologist, Ernst Haeckel, Ernst Haeckel, Haeckel, Ernst Haeckel, in 1960, you make it like 1869. In 1869, but its first authentic use has been done by writer, R-E-I-T-E-R. First authentic use has been done by writer. Okay, so that is one thing. So then in next point you mentioned that Charles Elton, a modern ecologist, defined ecology as the study of plants and animals, in relation to their habitat, Okay, so that is one thing. So in bracket, in next point or in bracket you mentioned that habitat refers to the place, the place where an organism lives. The place where an organism lives. Okay, so that is with respect to the basic introduction about ecology. Okay, so did you understand what is ecology now? So did you understand this, this relationship? Like there would be relationship between different organisms. So now you think here we were discussing about the organisms and their relations. So for example, deers would be there. So individual organisms belonging to same species, there can be same species individuals, that means deers, and can we expect relationship between deers within themselves? Okay, so there can be relationship, the relations between within a species, and there can be relationship between within different species of animals. Like think about deers. So deers, they themselves will have relation, like for example for mate deers, they will have interaction, and for food they have to depend upon other species of living organism, like let's say green plants or grass. So likewise in the environment, the relationship between organisms can be within the species or in between the species. Okay, relationship can be two ways. So based on the relationship between the organisms, so ecology, when we talk about ecology can be systematically classified into two types. So one type is nothing but the art ecology. One type is nothing but art ecology, and other type is nothing but the syn ecology. Art ecology and syn ecology. So what do you mean by art ecology? Art ecology refers to systematic study of the interactions or systematic study of the relationship between the organisms of same species. Organisms of same species. Think about relationship between the deer species itself. Think about the relationship between the tiger species. Within themselves they will have relationship. So when we systematically study the interactions or relationship between within a particular species, then that is known as art ecology. So we will also call them as the species ecology. Species ecology, because we are studying the interactions between same species. Okay, so relationship between deers and deers, tigers and tigers, so likewise. So that is nothing but the art ecology. So here we will study about either individual organism or the entire species. So that would be our subject matter. Then there can be interactions in between different species of the organisms, like think about deer and the tiger. So they depend upon various aspects, like as a prey and predator. So they will have specific relation. So when we try to study the interactions between different species of animals, so such kind of ecology is nothing but the syn ecology. So as we are studying about the interactions between different species, we will also call it as the community ecology, or we will call it as population ecology. Population ecology. Okay, so based on this, these are the two branches of ecology. Okay, so that is basic introduction about what is ecology and what are the branches of ecology that are present. Okay, so there you keep a subheading stating branches of ecology. So branches of ecology. Branches of ecology. Okay, so there first you write this flowchart, and then let's write the points under that. Okay, for remembering you just mention this flowchart. Branches of ecology. So ecology can be systematically divided into two branches. Online students, are you able to follow? Okay. Art ecology and scene ecology. Art ecology is also known as species ecology. Scene ecology is also known as population ecology. You can remember one name, population ecology likewise. Okay, then, so there you mention a small subheading mentioning like art ecology, art ecology. Okay, so art ecology. So under that you mention that art ecology is the study of art ecology is the study of interaction between individual species with their environment, individual species with their environment. Okay, keep a full stop and write in the same point stating it is also known as species ecology. Species ecology. Okay, keep a full stop and write in the same point. It studies the, yes, till where you have written? It is also known as species ecology. Keep a full stop and write in the same point. It studies individual organisms or an entire species, individual organism or an entire species. Okay, so that is one thing. Then next point you mention scene ecology. Scene ecology. Okay, so there under that you mention scene ecology is the study of interactions. Scene ecology is the study of interactions among two or more species. Interactions among two or more species are a population with their environment. Okay, so keep a full stop and write in the same point. It is also known as community ecology. Or population ecology. Community ecology or population ecology. Full stop, write in the same point. It studies two or more species or whole population Okay, so that is one thing. So here when we go to levels of hierarchy, there you will get what is a species, what is a population, what is a community. So you will try to learn all of those things in later portions. Okay, so but here you remember. Yes. Huh. In between them also. Yes, ecology is nothing but the term ecology itself refers to systematic study of the interactions among themselves as well as with the environment. So here also same thing. Okay, but simply we have mentioned, to denote we have mentioned like same spaces likewise. Okay, you can remember likewise. So you just derive the definition from ecology. Ecology that in itself involves interactions among within themselves as well as with the environment. So that includes automatically. So that is the branches of ecology. So now let's move on to understand some of the environmental aspects. So now we have understood that what is environment and what is ecology. So when we talk about an organism, so an organism will have interactions among themselves and interactions with the environment. So what could be how an organism will be influenced by the environment? So in the definition we have understood that environment, in the environment definition, can you see again? So sum total of all the biotic and abiotic components that surround and potentially influence an organism. So that means in environment an organism is influenced by the surroundings. So that kind of influence of the surroundings on an organism, it breeds or it inbreeds or it leads to some of the responses. So organism will show some responses. Either it can be plant or it can be animals. So responses, next topic which we have to see is responses of living organisms to their environment. So if we just talk about the responses of living organisms to the environment, so we have different living organisms. So there we have basically the plants and we have animals. So plant responses would be there and there would be animal responses. Plant responses and animal responses. We can study this in systematically under these subjects. So when we generally talk about plants, plants will show various responses to the surrounding. Various responses to the surrounding means environment means surroundings. So here what would be the general responses of the plants towards the environment? One response is known as the phototropism. Phototropism, it would be one response. Okay, we will try to learn about all of them. So then we will have other response would be known as photonasty. Phototropism or phototropic movement, that is one response. Photonasty, that would be other response. And then we will have other responses like thermonasty. This is other response. Then we will have other responses like thigmonasty. This is other response. So then if you see, plants will have other responses like the nyctinasty. Nyctinasty, it is another response. Okay, then apart from this we will have other response called photoperiodism. Photoperiodism. Okay, so this is one way we can talk about the response of the plants towards their environment. So we'll try to understand them systematically. We have to see various examples and how they'll be there. So then apart from this, animals also will show responses to the environment. So what are the general responses of organisms, of animals to the environment? So general response of animals to the environment, first one is that regulation. They will get regulate with the surroundings. So regulation is one thing. It can be with respect to, think about temperature. Their body temperature has to be regulated. So likewise they will regulate. Okay, then the next process is nothing but the conformers or confirmation. We'll try to understand them systematically. I'm introducing the terms. So conformation are those organisms which follow this process. Response is nothing but conformers, or those organisms which show regulation, they are nothing but regulators. Regulation, conformation, then migration is one another response. If there are unfavorable conditions or unfavorable environmental conditions, then organisms will move from one place to another place. So that is known as migration. So movement from one place to another place. So migration would be another response. Then under unfavorable situation, they will also show another response called suspension. Suspension. This is another response, suspension of the developmental activities. So that is one thing. So then we can have other response called the diapass. Diapass. Pass means making it stagnant. So in your day-to-day life also you will pass. So pass means stopping there. So there, in the similar fashion, organisms also will pass their growth and development. So that is diapass. So we will try to understand them in a systematic manner. Okay. So there you try to just list out these points, so that let's go one by one. So you mentioned, keep a heading stating responses of organisms to abiotic factors. Responses of organisms to abiotic factors. To abiotic factors. Okay. So can you name abiotic factors once? Yes, sunlight. Yes, water, air, temperature. So all these things, light. So all of them are nothing but different the abiotic factors. Okay. So there you mentioned responses of living organisms to abiotic factors. Under that you make this flow chart. Online students, is it visible? Okay. Okay. Please take down this chart. Take down this flow chart. Okay, done. So first one. So when we talk about the responses of living organisms, there can be plant responses, there can be animal responses. So here, as we are saying that responses of the organisms towards the abiotic factors, when we talk about the animals, so further we can classify the responses with respect to different abiotic factors. Like for example, response of the animals towards the light. So that would be different. And response of the animals towards the temperature, that would be different. For example, some animals would be active during the daytime and some animals would be active during the night time. So that would be nothing but a response of the organisms towards the light, sunlight. Okay. Then we will have responses of the animals to the temperature. So to temperature means in terms of, for example, during summer times, there would be different type of response. During the winter times, there would be different response. So based on that, we can have other things like the hibernation and estivation, such concepts will come. So then if we talk from other things, response of the organisms towards other abiotic factors will be there. So likewise, light, temperature, these are some common abiotic factors that we can see. Okay, so there, let's try to understand the plant responses first. What are the different responses of the plants towards the surroundings? So there, if we talk about first one, so first one is nothing but the phototropism. Phototropism. So what do you mean by phototropism? So phototropism, the word photo refers to light, tropism refers to movement. So here in simple way, it refers to directional movement of the plants in response to the light. So light would be there and movement of the plants would be there. So it is, in simple manner, it is nothing but the directional response of the plants towards the light. So directional response, that means sometimes plants will move towards the light, or sometimes plant may move away from the light. So for example, if we assume that there is sun like this, so there is sunlight like this, so sometimes the plants may move towards the sunlight, okay, and sometimes the plants may move away from the sunlight. So based on that, we can call we can just explain that movement of plants either towards the sunlight or away from the sunlight. So that refers to phototropism. Phototropism. So photo means light, tropism means movement. So phototropism, in simple way, here remember, very important thing is directional response. Based on the direction of the sunlight we are talking. So there can be either towards the sunlight. If it is towards the sunlight, then we will call it as positive phototropism. If it is towards the sunlight. If the movement, if the plants are bending away from the sunlight, then we will call it as the negative phototropism. Negative phototropism. Can you able to follow that? So here keyword, you remember that there would be other moments. So there, here you have to remember this keyword, directional response of the plants towards the light. So that is phototropism. So there, if you remember some of the examples of phototropism. So there you can see like sunflower. Sunflower also shows sunflower. It moves. Yes. Sunflower moves. Sunflower moves, however light will move. So there, for example, you can see sunflower. You can take the example of sunflower for both the phototropism as well as photoperiodism. So you can see so plants will move according to the direction of the sunlight. So that is phototropic movement. Okay, so you can have such example, like one of the example for phototropism. Phototropism is movement of the sunflower. So that is an example for phototropic. So here plant will move towards the sunlight or likewise. So that is one example we can give for phototropic movement. So there the sunflower was moving towards the sunlight. or away from towards the sunlight. Likewise, to whichever the direction it is there, it moves. In the morning it would be in one direction, in the evening it turns towards other direction. Likewise, so that is in directional response to the plants. So that is phototropism. So you write first one, keep the heading as phototropism, subheading as phototropism. Phototropism. See, all of these things are very, very important. So why am I saying is that UPSC has not picked these genres from past 5 to 6 years. From past 5 to 6 years, it has not picked, and slowly it is moving. Now, in the last year's paper, they have given a hint that they are moving towards picking again the basics. So there we have got an example of nocturnal animals. So can you see a question? In 2023 pre, nocturnal animals. So nocturnal animal, that is nothing but response of animals towards the light. Okay, so they have picked that example. So there is every possibility that they may focus on the basics. So we have to learn these very basic important aspects. Okay, there you mentioned phototropism. Phototropism refers to directional response. Phototropism refers to directional response. Directional response of the plants. Directional response of the plants either towards or away from the source of the light. Away from the source of the light. Away from the source of the light. Okay, so then next point you mentioned, based on the direction of movement, based on the direction of movement of the plant, based on the direction of the movement of the plants, phototropism can be of two types. Phototropism can be of two types, namely positive phototropism and negative phototropism. Positive phototropism and negative phototropism. Okay, so next point you mentioned, positive phototropism. Positive phototropism is movement of the plants towards the light source, and negative phototropism refers to movement away from the light. Okay, so that is one thing. So for example, movement of sunflower along with sunlight. Okay, so that is with respect to the phototropism. So you remember this is directional movement. So key thing is that wherever the light source, if light source is coming from this side, they may move this side or they may move away from this side. So that is directional movement. So next important response is that is photonasty. Nasty. So this is also a kind of movement. Photo means the light. So movement of the plant irrespective of the direction of the light. So there won't be any influence of the direction of the light. But if light is there, then there would be a response. If light is not there, then there would be a kind of response. So irrespective of the direction of this light, the plants will show response. So such kind of movement is nothing but photonasty or photonastic movements. Okay, so generally if you talk about the leaves of oxalis trees, leaves of oxalis plants or leaves of oxalis plants, you can see such kind of movement. Leaves of oxalis triangularis plants. So if you just see the example, so there you can better understand from the video. There you see, okay. So you see, when light is there, when light is there, obviously the leaves of oxalis triangularis, the shape of the leaves would be in triangle shape. So we will call it as oxalis triangularis tree plants. So during light, the leaves of oxalis triangularis plants, they will open, and during the night time they will close. So this is one example for the photonasty or nictic movement. Photonasty movement. So can you see? So can you see such movement? So that is one example for photonasty. Okay, so there you mention photonasty. Photonasty. There you mentioned another movement of the plant, movement of the plant in response to light. Movement of the plant in response to light, irrespective of the direction of the stimulus. Irrespective of the direction of the stimulus refers to photonasty. Refers to photonasty. Refers, yes, movement of the plant in response to light, irrespective of the direction of the stimulus. Stimulus means which stimulates the movement, irrespective of the direction of the stimulus. That means sunlight here is known as photonasty or refers to photonasty. Okay. Then in next point you mention, for example, leaves of oxalis triangularis. Oxalis triangularis plants. Oxalis triangularis plants open in the bright light, and droop in the dim light, and droop. They open in the bright light and droop, D-R-O-O-P, droop. Droop means they will fall. So droop in the dim light. Okay, if light is there, they will open. If light is not there, they will droop. So that is one thing. So that is one type of response that is shown by the oxalis triangularis. That movement is known as photonasty. Can you able to highlight the difference between phototropism and photonasty? So that is one thing. So then next one is with respect to the thermonasty. So what could be thermonasty? By word you try to guess. Yes, obviously. So thermo refers to temperature, photo refers to light. So thermo refers to the temperature. So movement of the plant in response to the temperature, that refers to thermonasty. Okay, so if you talk from example, so have you heard of tulip flowers? Tulip flowers. So tulip flowers, when sufficient amount of temperature is there, tulip flowers will bloom or they will blossom. So without sufficient temperature, tulip plants will not bloom. So there would be response to the temperature, so of the tulip plants, tulip flowers. So that is one example for the thermonasty. Okay, so there you can see simply the response of the plants. Can you see? So when sufficient temperature is there, then obviously the tulip flowers will bloom or they will blossom. So blooming of the tulip flowers with respect to the temperature. So when temperature again reduces, then obviously tulip flowers again they will close. So they will bloom and they will close. So that is one peculiar movement based on temperature. So this is response of the plant towards the temperature. So that is thermonasty. So there you mention, keep the heading thermonasty. So under that you mention movement of the plant or part of the plant, in association with or in response to change in the temperature. In response to change in the temperature. Okay, in response to change in the temperature. Okay, movement of the plant or part of the plant in response to change or changes in the temperature. So that is thermonasty. So there you write an example. The blooming of tulip flowers due to increase in the temperature. Blooming of the tulip flowers. Tulip, T-U-L-I-P, tulip flowers. Due to increase in the temperature is an example for thermonasty. Okay, so that is one thing. So then we can have other important response, that is, what is the other one? Other one is thigmonasty. So make it like thigmonasty. So what could be thigmonasty? Can anyone guess? No. Thigmonasty. Yes, good. It is touch. Response of the plants to movement of the plants in response to the touch. So do you remember Mimosa pudica? So Mimosa pudica, touch me not plant. If you touch the plant, then it shows response. So it closes its leaves when you touch that plant. So that is a response to the surrounding. So when you touch it, then immediately it closes the plant, it closes its leaves. And can you able to recollect the Venus flytrap? So Venus flytrap, it is another example for the response to touch. So there you see like a Okay, yes, we are showing that. Okay, you can see here. See, when we have given touch, obviously, Mimosa pudica, touch me not plant, it closes its leaves. So you see, can you see? Whole plant is not closing its leaves. Part of the plant is closing. So when you touch this leaf, then it closes entire that set of leaves. So it is one example for thigmonasty, response or movement of the plant in response to touch. Touch would be the stimulus here. Okay, so that is one thing. Okay, so that is one thing. So this is with respect to the touch me not plant or Mimosa pudica. So thigmonasty, in response to touch, there would be movement. Okay, so there you write There you write movement of the plant, movement of the plant or part of the plant, movement of the plant or part of the plant in response to the touch, irrespective of the direction of stimulus, refers to thigmonasty, So that is one thing. So then you mention refers to thigmonasty, or you mention seismonasty, seismo, S-E-I-S-M-O, seismonasty means movement. Okay, seismic movement. So seismonasty, likewise. So that is one thing. So then you mention next point, the leaves of Mimosa pudica, the leaves of Mimosa pudica, or in bracket you can mention touch me not plant. Leaves of Mimosa pudica, or in bracket you can mention touch me not plant is an example for this. Okay, usually you can see leaves will fold when you touch and leaves will open when the stimulus is removed, likewise. So then next example you mention another spectacular example of thigmonasty is Venus fly trap, Venus fly trap. Okay, so Venus flytrap. When you look at the Venus plant, so whenever an insect or whenever an organism it comes into its leaves, so then it shiftly closes its leaf blades and it catches that insect and it eats that particular insect. So there would be a lot of digestive enzymes for that, so they will ingest that particular thing, then they will feed on that. So you can see they will close. And it is very wise, it will give some chance and it gives some times for it to stay there so that it stays there. So it catches like that. So unless all the digestive enzymes will consume it, so that will catch that insects like that. Okay, so that is Venus fly trap. So there it tactically catches. So this is also one response of the plant towards touch. Okay, so it's also moving, snail is moving very slow. Okay, likewise. Okay, so like this, that is a response to the touch as the stimulus. Okay, so then we have nyctinasty. Nyctinasty means, yes, very good. Nyctinasty means movement in response to the darkness or night. So next one you mentioned, okay, have you written about this one? Okay, so then you mention about nyctinasty. Keep the heading nyctinasty. So under that you mention folding of the leaves. Under nyctinasty you mention folding of the leaves in response to darkness. Folding of the leaves in response to darkness. Okay, that refers to nyctinasty. Nasty means movement, and nicty means refers to night. So nocturnal animal. You remember nocturnal? Nocturnal, again nocturnal means darkness. So nocturnal animals means those animals which are active during the night time. They are nothing but nocturnal. So nicty, nocturnal, night. So likewise. So there you write folding of leaves in leguminous plants. Folding of leaves in leguminous plants. Folding of leaves in leguminous plants during night time. During night time. Okay, so that means with the onset of darkness, they will close the leaves. Okay, you can see it is an example for leguminous plant. So here when you see now there is light, so they are open. So you can see when darkness comes, then obviously they will close their leaves or they will fold their leaves. Okay, in the dark they have folded or they have got drooped. So that response is nothing but nicty, nasty. So some plants will show such kind of things. Okay, you can observe this in a tamarind tree also. If you happen to watch the tamarind plant also, it closes some of the plants like tamarind plants, they will close their leaves during night time. So you can observe them. So during daytime they will be open and during night time they will close. So leguminous plants is an example for that. So likewise you can see the difference. Same plant in the daytime, same plant in the night time. So they will droop and they will close their leaves. So likewise. So that is one response to the light. That is nictinastic movement. Okay, finally you mentioned photoperiodism. Photoperiodism. Okay, under that you mentioned photoperiodism refers to regulation of the physiology or development of plants. Physiology or development of plants in response to length of the day. In response to length of the day. In response to length of the day. Okay, so that is photoperiodism. That means usually in some plants, the growth and development of the plant, that is simply nothing but physiology. So the growth and development of the plants would be dependent upon the length of the days. Photo period. Photo means light, period means the time. So length of the day. Based on the length of the day, growth and development of the plant would be affected. So that process is nothing but photoperiodism. So based on this, some plants would be short day plants and some plants would be long day plants. Some plants, if short length of the day is short, then they will grow properly. Some plants will grow under long length of the day. So long day. So such plants are nothing but long day plants. Likewise, we have different types. So for example, when we talk about examples like rice is a short day plant. Okay, rice is a short day plant which requires less length of the day. Whereas if we talk from some plants like spinach or sugar beet, so such kind of plants will require more length of the day for their growth. So in one way, this thing would be, we can also manifest this in the sunflower also. Spinach and sugar beet. So sugar beet. So are you aware of sugar beet? So refer, otherwise you refer to the pic in the internet. So these are the two examples. So we can see this in the sunflower also. Sunflower also will have some sort of influence with respect to the photo period, that is length of the day. Okay, so there you mentioned based on the length of the day, or photo period, plants can be of two types. Number one, short day plants. Number two, long day plants, short day plants and long day plants. Okay, so for short day plants, you write an example like rice. Short day plants, keep a hyphen and mention rice. Rice is the example. Okay, for long day plants, you keep the example, mention the example like spinach, spinach, and sugar beet, sugar beet. Okay, so that is one thing. So other example you can mention is the what is that, sunflower. So sunflower also you can see here, you can see its length would be, its growth and development would be dependent upon length of the day. So what happens during the night and what happens during the day, you can see in this one. So this is phototropic moment. Then you can see during where influence on the growth and development also. See, during the night, during the daytime, this process will happen. During the night time, this process will happen. Elongation of the stem in the daytime and growth in the night time. So this is related to growth and development of the plant. Okay, so that is another example for the photoperiodism. Photoperiodism. So that's with respect to the movement of response of the plants in response to abiotic, for abiotic factors. So we will try to understand the responses of organisms to animals, response of animals to abiotic factors in next class. There we will also try to understand what are various adaptations, what are various acclimatizations. So all those things we have to study there. Okay, so that is for today's class. Okay, so we will meet in tomorrow's class and we'll discuss other aspects. Okay, thank you all.